Good evening, everyone, and welcome. We are the Sunshine Education Coalition, and this evening we present to you the Neutered Radical. It's a great conversation that we're going to have this evening, asking ourselves pertinent questions, including the most important question is, where is leadership gone? What about Black empowerment and leadership, especially right here in the Tampa Bay area? And who I'd like to introduce, first of all, my name is Denise Thomas. I'm the co-chair of the Sunshine Education Coalition. We are an organization that is comprised of teachers and parents and students and a variety of people who are just very concerned about not just education, but the impact education has on our Black students, and in particular, what's happening to them with the school to prison pipeline. Additionally, we have our chair, April Cobb. Say hi, April. All right.
Good afternoon.
All right. And also we have Dr. Angela Schroden, who is our secretary as extraordinaire. Can you introduce yourself?
Hey, everybody. Dr. Angela Schroden. Happy to be here. Ready for this conversation.
Right. So we also do have a guest coming in as well. We're letting him get situated. Pastor Buster, he's going to come on as well and talk to us from his perspective about leadership here in our area. And we just want everyone to jump in the conversation. You can jump into our chat. You can ask to request to come on screen. We welcome your ideas. So, so the way that we are very flowing with our conversation. We want to talk about a variety of things, but specifically based upon what's been happening in education right now, where we see what's happening in our current leadership with the governor and making all these different decisions regarding education, as well as women's bodies and everything else like that. We want to start off by talking about what are our current thoughts right now on the leadership that we have, not only in the state of Tampa, in the state of Florida, but also in the city of Tampa as well. So I'm gonna start off with Angela. Angela, what are your thoughts on that?
About the leadership, about our leadership in the state and local. Denise, when you chose the word neutered for this, it was both striking and very perfect. Because when I think about through the lens of being an educator, whether it's as a teacher or as a literacy coach or as a former reading supervisor, and I think about what the leadership in this state is passing, the legislation that they're passing, there really is no other word for it. Like, the neutered is very intentional. And it is to absolutely cut off any equity work that was going on, right? It was a backlash to a lot of movement that was beginning to happen. And I almost don't have the words to describe what I think about the leadership, because most days I'm still shocked. I have to pick my jaw up off the ground to see the actual effects of what's happening in schools for children, for our teachers. And it was like, if anybody out there is familiar with Harry Potter, the Dementors just sweeping through the hallways and literally sucking the life out of people, our schools. I know Dr. Bettina Love, we've talked about this before, talks about spirit murdering our children. And that is exactly what is happening. So neutered might seem like a really rough word, but in reality, it is the perfect word for what's happening here. And it's dismaying that there are a few voices that are overtaking the majority of people who don't agree with what's happening. So that's dismaying.
And I'll quickly add to that, to your point, Dr. Schroden, that not only is it ripping the spirit out of the children, imagine what that does to the educators that look like them. Well, we know our historical worth and value, and we're surrounded, we're being told by leadership from the very top in education to say to our children and our coworkers that we are not enough. We have not arrived. We are not important. Like all the things that will be associated with not being, because someone has decided in their individual right to say, we cannot be developed as a people to a place that we want to continue sharing our historical value, what we brought to the table, so to speak. So it's very interesting that we're at this place in time, and it's very disheartening. But I will say this: if we as a people collectively do not see something wrong with this, it really speaks volume to people that we consider friends and even allies if they're not bringing voice to what's happening to us, to me, to my children, to my family as a people.
Denise, if you don't mind, I'm going to jump back in. I was just reminded. So in the past couple of months, I've been asked to sit on more than one panel about book banning and its effects on children and teachers and all of those things. And I was reminded of an excerpt from an audio recording of one of our senators, right? So this question is about leadership in this state. And so Senator Avila was asked about House Bill 7, and House Bill 7, for all of those out there, that just a quick, it's the individual freedom. Don't make me feel uncomfortable, right? I don't want you to talk about anything that has to do with anything other than whiteness, right? Like, don't talk about that. And so he was being asked about the neutered or chilling effects of what this was going to have. And I'm literally reading verbatim. His quote was, "The moment that there is any sort of hesitation from an educator as to whether they should say something or not, it's always safe and prudent for them to basically err on the side of caution and not say it." That is the leadership in Florida right now. That is the leadership. So again, I come back to your choosing of the word neutered was spot on.
Thank you so much. I mean, and one thing I do want to add to that is you have to understand, when you have leadership that wants to destroy education, you're basically looking at history repeating itself. So go right back now. We're going to take it back to Germany and the Nazi Party. What's the first thing that they did? Is they destroyed the history. On top of destroying the people, but they were destroying the history. Because if you do that, then of course the people don't have a foundation for which to stand on. And then here we are with our youth right now, who really don't know who they are. They don't understand that they are powerful people. They're intelligent people. They come from greatness. When you have kids in 2023 who don't believe that Black people can be doctors and Black people can be, specialists in certain fields, they go into the fields of marine biology and science, and they can hike on mountains. And when you expose them to this information, it changes their perspective, because it changes them to where, oh wow, I really can do everything. This is not for one set of people, and that I'm supposed to be pigeonholed into a box because all I can do is either play sports or rap or make YouTube channels, and that's it. No, we are more than just entertainment, because that looks like the box that they want to put a lot of us in. We're just either athletes or entertainers, but that we are much more as a people. And so when you decide you're going to cut an educational program out, and then you're forcing leadership then to be quiet, and forcing the leadership to say, well, maybe we'll just err, just like you said, let's err on the side of caution, and we think that that's going to be okay. But that is definitely absolutely not the way to go. And people do need to speak up and speak out about it. And I looked at that petition that was going around, thousands of signatures being signed on it, and it's like, look, how could you decide to cut away from an entire group of people who literally founded the country? That's ridiculous.
Yeah. And Denise, I promise we're going to actually get off this question. So like, if y'all are like, just mute yourself, Angela, just mute yourself. Somebody much smarter than me once said, like, history doesn't repeat itself, but it often rhymes. And so you brought up Nazi Germany, which makes sense, but I'm thinking about how the history is rhyming right now with after the Civil War, the very way that the daughters of the Confederacy were able to keep the myth alive that it was about states' rights and not about slavery was they got textbooks published.
That's good. That's good, Angela. That's good.
exactly how they did it. And my husband, who works with the military, right, and who often works with non-state actors and terrorists, and I promise this is all going to connect back to this, but one of the ways that you begin a fascist country is you get a hold of education. And you begin to mold the minds of the people that are coming up to think in a certain way. So again, all of this is rhyming with each other. We've seen this before. We've seen this before, right? So it's, and I promise this will be the last thing I'm going to say. Here's why this matters if people don't say something. So I was just, one of the textbook publishers in social studies, right? And Denise, I'm thinking about what you said about children being able to see themselves represented in multiple ways in all of the greatness that they are, right? Here is the clip about Rosa Parks. So I want everybody to think about what they know about Rosa Parks, why she did what she did. This is what a second grader would learn if this happened to be adopted. Rosa Parks showed courage. One day she rode the bus. She was told to move to a different seat. She did not. She did what she believed was right.
That sure is a damn Rosa Parks I learned about all over these years. What happened to the shoving, the beating, the spitting, the cussing? What happened? None of that. Oh, okay.
Right. So there you go. So neutered. We're going to be
because it's the taming of education, or the
silence,
the warming. You don't want your education hot. You don't want to give it to people with that's completely factual, and quite frankly, it may terrify some people. It wakes up the mind. It shakes up your thought process. The whole purpose of school is to encourage children to think critically. Now, you're not going to allow them to think critically if they're just saying, I'm presented with this particular form of education, or this particular type of education. This is what I'm handing people. This is not going to help us. And the fact that we have leadership that is not standing up and saying that this is wrong. This whole thing is wrong. We can't be like this. This is completely wrong. Okay?
Right. And
it leads us into. Go ahead.
Nope. We're gonna move on. We're gonna move on to the next question. Like I got all day.
But at least
that was a good one. You can't open up with good ones like that, Denise.
I'm sorry.
Because I was ready to jump back in again. And when Pastor Buster comes back on, and we're going to allow him on. I think he had some connection issues just a moment ago, but we're going to let him jump on. But you can't come out with swinging questions like that. Like we was like this, we were fighting back.
Sorry.
We was fighting back.
I'm sorry. But is he able to answer that question? Maybe perhaps he wanted to jump in real quick, or is he's still out?
I don't think he's with us just yet.
And if not,
yeah.
Okay, but we will circle back, But here, this
no, Denise, he's on. Let me see if he's. Oh no, he looked like just a moment.
Okay. So I'll keep going. So this actually, we could come back to that question with him, but that actually leads us to this next question, which is, in the light of everything that is taking place, and this constant beating back against what is factual and what's correct, how do we push ourselves to continue to stay motivated? I mean, like within the past 2 years, we tried to get a bill passed in Tallahassee, and it was like, we know what the opposition is. We know we are very few in number in terms of who's voting and who's actually being represented up there, and it's hard. It's hard. You take 4 steps forward and you fall back 6. So how do you? For us, how are we able to stay motivated, and how do you stay motivated, ladies, in terms of what you're looking at right now?
Yeah,
Angela.
Yeah, and in all honesty, I would have to look at you two, right, and say, like, y'all have invited me into this space. That keeps me motivated, because I have somebody to do it with. Like, the work is too hard to do alone. I mean, I feel very strongly about that. The work, you have to have somebody. And I'm thinking about, each week when we get on together, the very first thing we do is just talk about life, right? Like talk about the day. And this is what, and then so it's, it's having somebody to rage to because that is a part of it. Like, I always joke with my husband, I don't understand how everybody's not walking around in a rage with their blood pressure through the roof, like all the time, all the time. But then it is, I believe everybody has a place in this movement. It doesn't always look the same, right? And so, like, my niche is making sure that as much as I can, that in the literacy world and how we're making decisions about kids with literacy and the books that are in front of them and the adoption process, that people know about what's happening, that I can bring information to the forefront, that because if you're not paying attention, it's easy to miss, right? Like, it just seems like we're just doing everything that we usually do, right? And so you really got to pay attention to what's happening. And I recognize that not everybody has the time nor the inclination to read House Bill 7 or House Bill 241. But having that knowledge and being able to share it with different parents, different groups, like, that's what starts to build the coalition. And I'd be lying if I didn't say there are days where I'm like, why didn't I pick interior decorating? Like, why didn't I pick that as a job? Because that seems very pleasant, right? Like, nobody's angry about that. But then I think, how fulfilling is that, right? So that's kind of my thing. And maybe a beverage or two. That's
Well, while you take 2, I'll take the other 3, 4, 5. Because I will say this, teaching has definitely been a very full career. It feel like I should be in retirement and have been sitting on the beach for 10 years at this point. And it's not because of the children, so to speak. The majority of it is from the politics of it. The majority of it is from not allowing teachers to carry out the autonomy that's necessary and efforts to do what's best for children in their classrooms. So I mean, in order to stay motivated is very much of what you shared as well. And that would be to stay connected to women like you all, and, also, be able to vent to those that are not in the occupation. Excuse me, y'all, but share knowledge about what's truly happening behind the scenes, because it's one thing to be on the outside looking in, but it's a totally different beast to be inside looking out, like the animals that are in cages. Like right now, we are encaged and we're constantly being poked at and pried at, and nobody's asking us, the educators, us. Nobody's asking us, what do you think is best for the children? You're handpicking people that are in alignment with your vision and your views in order to share, project this narrative that it makes sense in what you're doing. And again, I'm going to continue to go back to the people that are not saying anything. That is a problem. I have a problem with them not being as upset as I am as to what's happening overall in education when it comes to the word African American and Black. Like it's like we're some type of, it's like you're trying to enslave our minds to think that you all may have thought you made it, but let me reel you all back into reality. You have not. You have not. So get back in your place, Black people, African American people. Get back where I tell you, and you cannot move as further along until I give you permission. That's exactly what it feels like. And it doesn't feel good. So to be in my space nowadays, it's like, I'm not upset with you, coworker. I'm not upset with you, church people. I'm not upset with you, friends and family. I'm upset with just life and the situation, because I know how it's going to impact our children if we don't do something and be vocal about it, and individuals collectively having the same voice that we have as a people. Because to me, I ain't gonna say what you call it, but we're gonna leave him alone. We're gonna leave DeSantis. Yeah, we're gonna leave him alone, Didi, today. We're gonna leave him alone.
I know where she's going. Just go back and watch the other videos. But anyway, but I agree with you ladies, absolutely. I mean, because it for lack of a better word, hurts when you know you have value, you bring a lot to the table. You have a wealth as a people. We especially people over the diaspora, we have spread everywhere, and we contribute so much to culture, to we contribute so much to society. We there are wonderful inventions that people of color have made, and just major contributions to society. And just the fact that you're being told, I mean, in basically no uncertain terms, you're being told that you are worth absolutely nothing, and that the fact that your history is not important enough to be studied, or important enough to give the exposure to children, that just crushes the spirit. That destroys you from internally. I mean, and how can you even walk around with your head held high when someone is, just like you're saying, someone is saying that we are not good enough to study. It is okay for you to be in Florida studying Japanese and Italian and every other subject area, but you cannot study African American history. And because I have a feel, my feeling is this is um when I'm weighed down with these and burdened down with this knowledge, I do have to surround myself with positive people, and surround myself with people who are also like-minded, and who want to bring awareness of these issues out to people, because that's the only way we'll keep going. Because I know sometimes there are days when it's just like, really, I mean, what else? Like the other day, and people were laughing at me, but I said I'm actually walking with these freedom papers while I pull up this Black History Month stuff. And what it is, I said, "What's your freedom paper?" It's the actual Florida statute, the statute that actually says I can teach actually Black history, and it's part of the curriculum. So I said, before you say one word, this is my papers I'm walking with while I post this stuff on my board. So no one can say to me, "No, are you allowed to put that on it?" It's sad that's what we've come to. April, you gonna say something?
That's actually heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking. And it angers me to a place that I don't even like to go, because it can fester up a rage in us as a people, to where our children are already upset as hell about a lot of stuff, because a lot of them are dealing with things that are not, that children should be dealing with, period. That's a whole nother conversation. And the current sixth graders that we have this year, and it's a district wide tone that has just taken place with this group of kids. They are our true COVID babies. They are the third graders that was impacted by all of this. So they had them good old 2 years that they were just floundering along with the teachers, trying to stay afloat in this thing called education. And when they came out of it, they weren't given the opportunity to be able to reinvent themselves of how they want to move forward in education. Now, we know they had to have some kind of structure, but everything was being thrown up there. You got to catch them up. You got to do this. You got to do this. You got to get the gaps covered. You got to do, everything was just go, 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 rush, rush, rush. Now, we proclaim to have all this. We got to take care of the mental health, but that's just on paper and theory. We never took the time to address what happened to those children when they saw massive amounts of people just dying. They never experienced anything like this. And a lot of their family members were impacted by it greatly, especially in the minority population. So I say all that to say this. We got bigger things to be concerned about than worried about trying to erase the presence of the African-American people. Because those same monuments, those same bridges, those same railroad tracks, all that stuff, our ancestors died digging that stuff. Okay.
April, I hear you, because you and you're right. There was a quote at one point in time that James Baldwin, I think he mentioned this quote. He said, being African American is being African without being American, or you're walking around in a state of anger all the time. Yeah. You want to be free. You're being told that you're free. You're being told that you have all the access to the U.S. Constitution, all the rights and everything like that. But on one hand, but on the other hand, you're literally being destroyed in terms of where your background is, your history is. You're not allowed to live in a particular area. You've been redlined. You've been predatory lending has jumped on you. You've gone so far and yet you can't really go any further. And then I think what it is too is the advances, just like you had mentioned earlier, the advances that Black people have made over a period I think it was just too fast. I mean, the fact that, and I'm gonna get some hate right here, when people will say it was a good thing to have a Black president, but I think having a Black president was one of the worst things that could have actually happened to us as a people, because there are groups of people who have said, wait a minute, y'all just took this one step too far. Nobody told you you could run a country. Okay, so now the hate that came after that
It's
now,
developed rage. That's what they developed. Rage.
Exactly. Because how dare this Black man cause these young people to believe that they can actually achieve at that level. And so now the pushback is so incredibly strong. And this would leads us back to all this thing with leadership. The pushback is so strong now that it's like it has basically shoved down all other types of leadership, because they realize, wait a minute, they're not going to allow this to happen. And
right. Well, Denise, actually, the Baldwin quote that I thought you were getting ready to say was his quote about, we can disagree and still love each other unless your disagreement is rooted in my oppression and denial of my humanity and right to exist. Like, okay, then we're going to slow your roll. And so all I can think about is, and this was one of the pieces that I used to share with teachers when I was still in my previous role, what message are you sending to children when they do not see themselves represented in the curriculum at all? Like, you don't have to say you don't count. They know it because they never see themselves. And so, and like, not that this is going to, I hope, like, this part doesn't even matter to me right now, but I'm going to bring it up. Like, if I hear one more thing about like the achievement gap, like, who wants to come and achieve if I never see myself ever? Why am I going to try? Why? Like, oh my gosh. It's just, it's all like so stupid. I know it should be smarter than that, but like, that's all I can think about. It's so stupid. And like I hear so many, like, whether it's leadership or parents saying like, politics don't belong in our education. I don't want you to try and indoctrinate. Oh, education has always been political. It is political now more than it's anything else. It is political, and they are using it to garner votes. Whoever the they is, you can insert your they, whoever it is. But that is what's happening right now. So there you go.
Y'all are fired up this evening.
I had to suppress it. I had to suppress. I had to push it back. Go back. Go back down. Go back.
Okay, and go back down. Well, we'll just pause for a moment to see if Pastor Buster is on. Is he on, April?
I can't see him in the queue. I can see his name. So let's just proceed. Hopefully, yeah, we'll see.
All right. So okay, sticking where we know, in terms of looking at people who you would turn to, or where would you go now for like more sound advice to help us with this struggle? I mean, we've been at this for a couple of years, and we have met some fantastic people. And who would you say, or who would you recommend right now in terms of who would help us with this fight that we're on right now? So what do you think? Oh, I'm sorry. Should I said Angela?
Oh, I was like, I want to go second on this question. I want to go second on this question.
I can go first.
So one thing I will say, because I don't want to, and I know that like a part of this was really like pointing out who can we look to for leadership and to support. But in all honesty, like, I do have people in my life and in my work sphere, my personal sphere, that I go to for advice on how to navigate situations and how to do. But honestly, like, I don't want to name them because of what I know the backlash would be. Right. So they're not even technically always in leadership, if that makes any sense, like a positional leadership. They have leadership kind of in their, maybe sphere or whatever. But I'm actually a little reticent to name it because of the retribution that would come back to them. So that's why let me
I
think for a second about a person I could actually name out loud.
I mean, not specifically. It doesn't have to be specific somebody you would name, but like in terms of like educational leaders, or in terms of what like for example, since we're at this point now, we're like literally stuck in the state of Florida. I mean, when we reach out to larger organizations, I mean, what, and I invite this question out to people also in the audience, things like that too, in terms of, well, where would you go if you're trying to make a sustainable change? Where would we go? And April, did you have a comment?
I cannot honestly say that I know someone directly, individualized, to be able to say I would choose this person. It's more on the lines that, and Dr. Schroeder just said, is that it would be probably more so, well, an organization, so to speak, because of the current things that they're doing, actually visible, to where we could see it in action. Now, if you were to ask the question, who are leaders that I will want to see do something about it? Now that would be something totally indifferent, because if our leadership that has the direct position to make an impact on education, that person should be an individual that's doing what's the collective good for all children, not some, and not the feelings over others, because facts are facts. It should be what's going to be best for all children. And then that goes down to our local level. I'm talking state and statewide, and then our countywide situation and city legislatures here. And then even in the event that we know our school board has limited capacity, I think that they don't do enough collectively to speak to the issues that also are not healthy for all children in our district. I think that every time when they're on the dais, they know that if there's a population of children that are not receiving the best quality education and what I want to say, the equity and being treated fairly on campuses, then they should speak to it, even if it's only for, it can be a less than a minute, but every time they're in that seat, they should be bringing voice to the situation, and to continually be in those positions and, speak on it sporadically, like when they're running for office. That is disturbing to me. It's undermining. It's utilizing, what Bianca always say, living off the back of our children. That's not fair and it's not right. And I hope that they see at some point that if they have grandchildren or children of their own, these same children that they are not treating fairly, become adults. And at some point, they begin to think on their own, and they look back and see how they were treated. And they realize that I did not receive what I deserved. And I just think that we could do a better job. And for us, the biggest impact that we will have and be able to get a true feel for, reaping a benefit from it, would be from our school board, our city councilman, our county commissioners, our mayor, our actual local political leaders. And most of them won't even touch education with a 12-foot pole, like my grandmother used to say, because they use the language, I don't want to step on any toes. Well, my ancestors' toes was stepped on, stomped on, bleeding, without shoes, wrapped with rags, cut, beat so they couldn't walk on them to run away. So don't just step on the toes. Chop a few off if you need to.
Exactly, and that leads. I think that's where I wanted to go with that question, which was talking about what should that leadership look like. I mean, what is it? If you, for example, at my school, okay, going back to that whole thing about the book selection. All right, one year we had to read a book. The book was about a girl from Vietnam. I'm like, well, do you know that no one that I taught at all, no, not one single child had was of Asian descent. Okay. So to make the connections was just like, wow. Okay. It took everything I had. And I realized at some point in time, I said, halfway through this book, we got to stop. When you give the leadership the opportunity to then shape and mold things that's specific to their school and specific to their population, it's going to be helpful. That's the type of leadership I would want to see, where you're seeing someone say, okay, my population looks like this. These are the materials that I need to have. This is the curriculum we're going to follow. That we need to have books that look like the kids. We need to encourage the kids. Everything that surrounds that the children have to encounter should be something that build them, not only their self-esteem, should be able to build them educationally, build up their moral foundation, everything about them. And that's what we're lacking. So I agree with you when it comes to things like the school board, things like that. You have to say to yourself, okay, wait a minute, I want to have the type of leadership in place to where that they're making the wisest decisions for the all the children, and for in the best interest of the children, not in the best interest of some, the ones that, because as we see right now, going back to the boundaries, we ain't even gonna talk about the boundaries. I try to go this way with that, but I mean, again, that's a leadership thing, right off the top. So what would leadership look like? What do you think? Just put this question out. What would an ideal leadership in education, now from the state down to the actual specific school, right? What is the ultimate, or the most euphoric form of leadership look like to you?
I mean, I'm trying to be realistic about, I mean, ideally it would be, and I was thinking about this, April or Denise, when we were talking about even the last question where, you were like, who do you go to? And there were, I was thinking about a couple of organizations, the Learning for Justice. And then there's another collaborative called the Zen Education Project that do some really, really great work. Another one called Rethinking Schools. And it's really been their mission for decades, right? Like it wasn't just like in the last 5 years, we decided that, we wanted to really start thinking about justice and how do we rethink schools, since they've never worked for all children. Never in their entire history they weren't even designed for Black children. Let me start there. Let's start there. They're doing exactly what they were designed to do, and that is not to be designed for Black children. And so, ideally, it would be anyone that keeps that idea of justice and learning at the forefront. So that would be the ideal of every leader. But if we're talking about what does a local leader look like, whether it's in our schools or whether it's on our, county commission or city council, having to be a leader in spite of the garbage that is passed, the legislation that is passed, it would be someone that can both keep justice and equity at the forefront, because they recognize without it that it's an awful place to be, but that is savvy and smart enough to work around the legislation. Right? Like, does that make sense? You got to know the legislation and then know, how do I still stay committed to this thing, equity and justice and all, really buying into all children can be successful, not just saying that with, your mouth and not really meaning it. But it is, so like, as a concrete example, I still haven't had anybody answer my question of, okay, so how does House Bill 7 align with what I know to be a statute that's been in place for years, that I'm supposed to be teaching African-American history? How do those two things coexist?
And that is a great question. It doesn't even add up. It's like, how can you create one without amending the other one or getting rid of the other? How do you do that? Right. It's the most asinine thing I've ever seen. Like, it doesn't make sense. And no one even came well, maybe they have. Maybe we just are not privy to this. Right. Maybe somebody said, we have this over here, and what you're creating contradicts what's over there.
Well, I'm jumping even further. I mean, because what got me surprised, or what's like I say, the word I love to use is doublethink. How is it that at the same time that you're saying we need to ban African American history studies, but let's go ahead from the governor's office, we're going to go ahead and push out an essay, yeah, well, let's go ahead and do a Black History Month essay about great leaders in Florida. I said, well, wait a minute, wait a minute. Didn't you just say, dude, that we I'm confused. I'm confused. I really am because I don't what that right there. So again, so to understand people where you're following some leadership that seems like they don't know what they're doing. Like, you can't drag in somebody that seems to. Hey, Pastor, how are you? I know you've been listening to our conversation. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of questions we threw out there a little bit. You want to jump on in and talk to us about how you feel about current leadership today? I think he's on mute. You got to unmute yourself. There you go.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Mm-hmm.
Can you hear me? Okay. Now, the current, what I see current leadership today is not connected. And Dr. Stroden said one word that I've been dying to get on so long, trying to hurry and get here, dropping off grandkids and flying. I don't even want to tell y'all what I was just doing right now. That's why I had to block myself off because y'all couldn't see what I just did on the road. But Dr. Stroden said something about intentional leadership, local, state, and federal government right now is intentionally a group of people, and they don't care. They have no, they're not connected in the level in the way that I feel they need to be connected. One of the problem is I believe because especially local government, I can speak about local government. We no longer live where we serve. We have moved out of the areas that we serve, even though we're serving them areas. We're we're not there, so we're disconnected. So I believe once we get connected, once people get connected back to the areas that they serve, I think we can make a lot of difference. But right now we're not doing that because we're even me. I pastor a church in a certain area. Now being honest, I used to live around the corner from a church. You can walk to my house from where I pastored. Um, but Miss Tommy, we had to move. And the reason me and my wife moved because people was coming to my door all the time of the night because they knew I was a pastor, and it became intrusive. So we moved, but I never moved too far away that I'm not connected to the people that I serve. So once we
Okay.
get and that's the problem that I have with our local government and our school board. I heard Miss Cobb talking about the school board. Our school board wait till something happened before they speak about it. Instead of being proactive, we be reactive. And then when we're being reactive, we're not really even talking about the situation or the issue. We're pushing it, we're doing what we can to push it under the rug to where it comes up later on. We're tabling. What we do in the Baptist church, we will table this.
We will
That what
table
we
the
do,
discussion.
huh?
They'll
Yeah,
table the
we'll
discussion.
continue the discussion. Yeah, we'll table the discussion to another time, and we never get back to it.
Right, exactly. And that's the thing where we're focused on first. We were looking at the leadership and just being like I'm not originally from Tampa, but I know that those who are from, like, born and raised in Tampa, they've been around Tampa. I mean, how have you seen it shift, like, especially in the Black community? Have you seen it shift over the period of the decades of time that we've been here? Because remember, I came in, I've been here about 24 years. But prior to that, do you feel like the leadership was stronger back then than it is now? Pastor Buster, that's for you.
To me, yes, truly different now than it was before. It used to be a time as a pastor that I've been pastor in New Macedonia Missionary Baptist Church in Tampa, Florida, a church with a heart. Just put that plug in there. For 21 years, I've been pastoring for 21 years. But here's the catch: My grandfather pastored here 27 years before I did. I succeeded my grandfather, who I was basically his tag along buddy. So I saw pastors, I saw leaders, I saw elected officials, not just come to the churches and make a promise that they didn't keep. Before they even brought anything up to the board or anything, they brought that by the pastors. There was a group of pastors in the city of Tampa that was under the leadership of what they call the Baptist Ministers Alliance. And this group of pastors, can I just be honest? Can we just be transparent? These was not men that had doctrines. They weren't going by the name of Dr. Buster or Dr. this. They were just reverend, pastor. These men, which my grandfather was one, had a third grade education. But they had so much of a heart for the people that the elected officials came to them and asked, would this be okay if we do this in the city, or we do this in this area? We didn't get it afterwards. They came to us even before it was a proposal, thought to be a proposal. They brought it to the pastor. And I sat there and watched my grandfather and some of these men argue down elected officials. Oh, y'all ain't finna do that here. Y'all ain't finna do that here. No, we're not doing that in the city of Tampa. And they be wondering why. Because it's not what we represent as a people, as a community from East Tampa, West Tampa, Progress Village, North Tampa. It took one man to stand up, and all the rest of them was just that. Sometimes they walked out the meetings. If the issue was not hearing what they said, they just got up, dust themselves, if they had lunch, they lunch and thank you for the lunch and walked out the door. So leadership is completely different now than it was then. And I don't even, and I was just talking to somebody the other day that was, I think, running for an office, and asked me would I let them come to New Macedonia. I said, yeah, y'all come to New Macedonia. I said, I'm not afraid to let somebody in New Macedonia. I said, but the problem y'all have with New Macedonia is I don't have the number of people that y'all looking for. And that's what the elected officials count for now. They only looking for numbers. They're not looking for results. They're looking for numbers. So they'll run to these churches that have 400 or 500 members and shoot a real good game to them. But they don't mean nothing they saying. And so, that's why I tell them when they come over here, please don't come over here with that, that propaganda stuff, that fake stuff. Tell me what your real deal is. And then me and New Macedonia will decide. I said, because I may not have 400 people, but guess what I have? I have about 50 some individuals that I know is registered to vote, because we made sure every person that's over the age of 18 years old in New Macedonia is registered to vote. If once they turn 18, we give them a registration form. Let me make sure you are registered. And if we got to get them to the polls, we pick them up and take them to the poll. I need to make sure y'all voting, because some of my people, they young, they so busy. No, we need to get to the polls. I need y'all to get there. Because your voice is not heard through all this other stuff. Your voice is heard in that ballot box.
And you made such an excellent point, in terms of what people would come to local leadership and would request something. Now, I mean, I've sat in several meetings where they will ask for the community's input, but they've already made a decision. They've already said, okay, well, like I clearly remember one of the questions they asked when they were building up over here off of Hannah, and we didn't know what that structure was going to be yet. Clearly owned by the city of Tampa. And first they said, well, we just like to hear your thoughts about what you'd like, and everyone on that in the East Tampa area who was on that Zoom call was like, oh, we love a park because we don't have any parks for the kids. We love a nice rec center. We like a library that's closer, so they don't have to cross the street and go all the way down to MLK. Can we have all of this in this area? And at the end of the meeting, okay, well, we're going to go ahead and build this apartment complex. Now, but what was the point? What was the point that you asking us even to be? But that was just literally to just do their part, to check off their box and say that we at least asked. But in reality, they didn't care what the people wanted. They didn't care.
But here's the question I have also to that. Who did they have the meeting with? I mean, they brought the meeting to you. They brought the meeting to a group of people. But understand what we said in New Macedonia, that was a meeting before the meeting.
That's the problem. All the
And
meetings
that's the
before the
problem.
meetings about
There's
the
a
meeting
meeting.
that we're gonna meet
There's
about.
a meeting before the meeting, and the question is, who's in the meeting? You get people in the meeting that you know that you can buy off. And that's on the ones you want in the meeting, the ones that you can buy off. You ain't invite nobody that's gonna stand firm to what they believe in. You're gonna bring somebody to the meeting like, hey, like we do this for you and do that for you. You know what you agree. Yeah, I agree with that. And then they'll bring the meeting to us. But before they done brought the meeting to us, they done made the agreement. This is what's going to happen because we got this certain person on board.
And you know what I always find disturbing is when specific organizations are speaking for the people when the majority of the people don't agree with what the organizations are doing and stand for. That is just, and then to be disregarded by the organizations and the leaderships of the organizations that you're inquiring about when it comes to education. To say, well, what are you all doing about this? Well, we're going to go over here and meet with this organization. And they said, I'm like, well, they don't speak for me. And I know the majority of the people in the community. Hell, the only person they talking to is you. Sorry, Pastor.
Miss Carr, here it is. They go to somebody that has been in education, but no longer in education. Somebody that was in education some 10 years ago when there was a different group of young people they were dealing with. Now the ones that teaching now, those that actually standing before these students and pouring your sweat and blood out, they're not coming to you now. They want to talk to this retired individual that haven't taught in the class or in the class setting in over 30 years. And because they like what they said, you look, like I said, the meeting before the meeting, and they're the ones speaking. So they'll go back and say, we had such and such, we spoke with such in a meeting, and you be like, but that person now, wait a minute, how do they know what's going on? They're not even in school. They're not in no classrooms. They not what we at. They're not dealing with Jimbo, not Bimbo, Jimbo.
Listen, as Buster gonna have me jump on this chair complete because I'm gonna jump on the chair and run all around
I see
the room.
you doing the rock. I see
you
a rock.
See me rocking because I can't contain myself. But I'm just, you're absolutely right, because I mean sometimes some of the things they come back at us with, I said, whose children you talking about? Because this is a technological age of human being. These are people that went ahead and screenshot the PowerPoint notes, talking about I got the notes already. They're not writing nothing down on paper. They took their phone out and said, chick, okay, I got the notes. What? So for people to say, I know what the children, no, you don't know this generation of children. This is a different breed altogether. These people were born with iPhones in their lives. Okay, so you're not gonna, so to be that, and that speaks to the point of where people are out of touch. That's the whole thing too. When you're out of touch with the community, you're out of touch with the individuals in the classroom, you're out of touch with the teachers, you're out of touch with everyone. That creates a whole wealth of other issues right there. And that's why that's when we say that the leadership is neutered, because you have no connection to the actual people that you serve. That's the big thing right there. Okay, so now for us though, the one I'm gonna go back real quick because I do it. You know, I'm gonna go back just real quick just to ask you. So, what do you think of the current leadership that we have? We want to talk about state first, and then then drop down a little bit into our city councils and school boards, things like that. Just your thoughts, Pastor. What are your thoughts on that?
Dr. Schroeder said, what's the word she used that you said?
Neutered.
Neutered.
Mm-hmm.
Neutered and intentional. Those two words she stated, neutered and intentional. They're doing everything they can to destroy a group of people, and they know it. And they know that group of people are not paying attention to what is happening. Just last week, I was in a Zoom call with pastors around the state of Florida talking about the AP African American studies that our governor has kicked out of the school system.
Correction, your governor.
Yeah. That man, well, that man is sitting in Tallahassee. Let me say it like that. And I got disturbed. because first of all, they, you know, the person that they brought in, the guest they brought in was a gentleman out of Detroit, Michigan. Very educated young man, very, very intellectual. And he was just trying to share with us pastors in the state of Florida. Somebody in Detroit, Michigan, know more about what's going on in the state of Florida. Let me hold on. Y'all see at New Macedonia right about now on Sunday. I say y'all missed the moment to shout. Somebody
We
in
get to
Detroit,
hollering on here, then we ain't gonna be able to let you talk. We about to start
Right.
screaming now.
somebody in
I,
Detroit, Michigan,
know Angela about to jump on her feet.
had to come to us in Florida and talk to us about what's happening in our state. And hear what one of the pastors said, he sounded so educated. He's a doctor. And he said, why should we be worrying about this? Should we be dealing with other issues other than this? And all because of the sticking points that the governor is using to push this study out of the school system. And I'm sitting there like, okay. I said, wait a minute. I don't have the education y'all brothers got, but this is like I said, he didn't just kick out those subjects. He kicked out the whole entire study. I said he didn't pull out, he didn't say just pull this piece out and that piece out and that piece out and still let the lesson be taught in the schools of Florida. He said everything. The whole history is gone. I said, brothers, at the end of the day, that's telling us we don't matter. And the problem with our leadership is that they know that some of us don't care. So they keep pushing these different agendas right under our nose. And because we are, we're no nonchalant, we're so slowful in things, and we just seem like we don't care, and we don't go vote. I told him I said the reason why we got that man in Tallahassee is because some folk didn't go vote. Plain and simple. I don't care if it was a Republican. Listen, I'd rather have another Republican than that Republican. I'm just telling you, I'll deal with anybody else, but this one here, that dude right there is I have no idea where he comes from. Did number 40, did number 44, did he birth him out himself? Because could that be his son, his illegitimate son that we don't know nothing about? That's the question people need to ask themselves. That's just me. That's just my craziness. Now, y'all do know, Pastor Buster my mama should have got a check from me, but she didn't. She should have got a check, but she didn't. I'm just saying, and then I'll come to our local government, and Lord have mercy on City of Tampa, Hillsborough County, because our government now here in the local area seem to care all about how we look to the visitors. So let's beautify downtown Tampa, Channel Side, Wabo City, because my grandma would come down here. She called it Wabo City. In Georgia, they don't know nothing about Ebo. They call it Wabo. And no matter how much, and no matter what we say, grandmama is not Wabo, it's Ebo. Y'all gonna take me down to the Wabo? Paul, I want to go down to Wabo. So they want to beautify Wabo City. They want to beautify Channel Side, downtown Tampa, Hyde Park, because when the visitors come in, we need to present a certain look to our city. We push the already homeless, and we just keep pushing them further and further out from somewhere, and don't even know what we're pushing them at. We just pushing them because we just want to make our city look good, and that's all they care about. They don't care nothing about East Tampa.
Well, let me tell you what they do. They are starting to care about East Tampa. I'm gonna tell you like this: when you start to see the roundabouts, you can always tell when they're coming through is when they fix the roads. Okay, so the first thing that remember Hillsborough Avenue been being under construction for 15 years, but at the same time, when you see 40th Street, the roundabouts, 34th got the roundabouts now. Or they cleaned the place up because as everything that they did at Central Park area, the West Tampa area. I mean, look, when I first came here, like it was 98 or whatever year, I was like, I ain't going through West Tampa. Now they jogging and walking dogs through West Tampa. So yeah, I mean, these areas are truly have been gentrified, and they're getting ready to gentrify the East Tampa area. And the reason why they're moving people out because they're trying to reduce the population of people of color. Because you notice that a lot of these people now are moving way out there. Where Brandon used to be the spot, now it's Valrico, it's Riverview. You're going further and further away. And you're actually, if you did a census count in Tampa, the population of Black people has actually been reduced. So that's what they're trying to do. Just like you said, the beautification on past, but not just the beautification, but the removal of people of color out of the city of Tampa. That's what it is.
But guess what, Miss Tommy, catch this out. Catch this here real quick. Yes, they put them roundabouts on 40th Street. They put them roundabouts on 40th Street, but imagine where they put them at. They put them on 40th Street between Hillsborough and Bush Boulevard. Why? Because the visitors gets off the interstate off of Hillsborough off of I-4. They go down 40th Street going to Busch Garden. They ain't care nothing about East Tampa. That's a beauty. And even when they were doing it, when they were bringing this to us and showing us this thing, we didn't care. And guess what? They had already made a mind up that we're going to do this before they even brought it. And next thing you know, we like, many of us, especially me, one of the ones that was in some of these meetings, I didn't know what a roundabout was. Like, what is a roundabout? I'm like, is that some English, connotation that I got to put one verse with another sentence? What is this here? Then they come find out, oh, this is a little circle thing that we got to go around and we got to try to treat it like it's a four-way stop sign, which folks don't understand. It's supposed to be treated like that. But y'all gonna drop it between Hillsborough and Bush, saying that y'all trying to eliminate the traffic. No, y'all trying to make it look good for them folks going to Busch Garden because Busch Garden pays a certain amount of money into the city, and the visitors that come to our city, the hospitality and all this here. I just know what y'all doing. Stop playing us.
Stop the gaslighting, right? Like, just stop the gaslighting.
As I found out last week when my granddaughter told me, stop capping. But
the kids say no cap.
No cap. Now, what she meant. She had to tell me, Papa, that's what you mean when you're telling a tale. When you're lying, they tell us no capping. I said, oh, that's the new way of saying it now. All right.
April, were you gonna say something as well? You good? Listen, let me tell you that this was a great conversation. I mean, we've had. First of all, like I said, we make it a little lighthearted, but at the same time, we are hitting some hard conversation. The one thing I do want to ask you, Pastor, before we do wrap up, I just realized we actually hit an hour. I can't believe that. What I did want to ask you is, how would you build create some kind of pipeline that would then give us future leaders? I mean, how does that work? Because remember, just like you were mentioning how you had stronger leaders back then as opposed to what's happening right now. So what needs to happen, or what needs to occur within our city, within our state? How especially, let's talk about the local level right here. How are we building these future leaders? How do we do that?
One of the things is having a good contention plan and finding those individuals that have the heart for the community, and you pick them out and you mentor them. One of the biggest problems I find in City of Tampa is we keep recycling the same old individuals. In our leadership, do you not know? I can go ahead and say, I'm gonna just say my name. I don't know if they watching, if they ever watch. I don't care. They can come talk to me. I'm big and bad enough to deal with whoever I got to deal with. Bring all the smoke. Come here. I'm here for all the smoke. But you have the whites, the Moses Whites. You have the Andrews. I can there's some other names. The Whites, the Andrews. the Conies are names that has resonated in our community for years. And we keep bringing them to the forefront. Not saying nothing wrong with them. The families, them some good families. Some of them I know personally. They're great people. But isn't there some green somewhere out there? Somebody with the last name Williams, somebody with the last name Cobb, that we can put, there's a scrotum out there we can put in a position to help lead us to the next level. But we don't see that because, first of all, we don't want nobody that seemed to come in controversial. We don't want that. We don't want nobody coming in muddy in the mud. We already know it's muddy, but we don't want you to come in and ruffle the mud that we in. You come in and act like the mud is clean when it's not. It's dirty. Every mud pile I done played in, it was dirty. My clothes got dirty, and I got a whooping for playing in the mud pile. So I just think that we have to get to a place where mentorship, and that's one of the things that I seen many years ago. Even some of our churches right now in the city of Tampa, there's pastors that are passing the baton to someone who has come from under him and watched him and learned from him. So when you go into that church, like New Macedonia, I told you I've been here 21 years. My grandfather was here 27 years. One of these things I can tell anybody is that I didn't really do too much changing of our ministry because I knew what my grandfather had done. We're doing things now that, I don't think that we would not have done it if my grandfather, I still believe we would have been doing what we're doing. We've still been feeding the community and looking out for individuals, helping those that we can pay their bills. I believe we were doing it because I took the heart of my grandfather and the heart of the Lord and just went along with what was already happening. But we got guys now that, somebody just like you said, Miss Thomas, you just moved in the city. Somebody can just drop themselves in the city of Tampa and go and put their name on the election on the ballot. You won't even know what's going on in the city that you are running for a elective position, but you want to be that person just because, hey, there's some quirks and some benefits that come along with it. Let me say that one more time. Y'all missed the moment to shout. There's some quirks and some benefits that come along with that position. So this years ago, I dig into my past, and the one time somebody asked me a question out of line is the one time y'all gonna see pastor not be pastor. That boy gonna end up being Buster, and it ain't gonna be pretty. So I said the best thing for me to do is stay in my lane, support, and continue to make and try to make a difference in my community. But it's going to take us to start mentoring individuals, picking out those individuals. Look, at some point, I'm gonna have to get off of that and let them go deal with my past and let my past, because I'm gonna say this. I know nobody said scripture yet, but as Paul said, forget those things what you're behind. I can't continue to allow my past to hold me down, because my past not only holding me down, it's holding my community down. It's holding that young man, that young woman that needs somebody with a voice like me on the school board, somebody with a voice like me on the city council, somebody with a voice like me with the county commissioner, somebody with a voice like me that will go sit in front of the mayor and tell the mayor, Jane Castor, you wrong.
Come on.
You wrong. No matter how you look at it, you wrong. And ain't no wrong. And two wrongs can't make a right. And you keep doing wrong. Tell the chief of police, look, whoever she select, look, at the end of the day, we don't want to happen what happened in Memphis. Even though I went to a meeting a couple of days ago, they like, it can't never happen in Tampa. I'm like, how you say that can't happen in Tampa? Them men, they would have said that would never happen in Memphis, but it did. And maybe not that, but something else could happen here. And what we got to do now is we got to put some boots on the ground and say that, look, We need to do everything we can to make sure that it doesn't happen. And when it do happen, it ain't to the level that what happened in Memphis and whatever happened in Chicago, happened in other places, that some things that we're seeing just outrageously happen in our country. And I just believe that's what it's going to take. It's going to take individuals to come together and select these. I hate to say it like that, but that's what we have to do. We have to see those individuals that have a heart like us, male or female. And one of the biggest problems I see is some of these pastors, Baptist pastors, and some AMEs.
Go ahead. We listen.
And some of them other ones don't understand that women can also be in leadership.
Okay, I'm just back up. I'm gonna jump right on that. Let's just go. Let's run it. Exactly what. Listen. There are. Let's talk about the minor prophets, since we're gonna go there, Pastor, because then we have some of the judges were female in the Bible. Okay, and they actually, just to let you know, the judges were, and we had some strong women in the Bible. We talked about Ruth, we talked about Esther, we talked about they were strong, and that leadership. And you have to understand, women look at things from a unique perspective as well. So we're giving you, like, women make up most of the population that teach in the schoolhouses. So you have to look and look toward your leadership, not from the viewpoint that's okay, well, that's the female, because we already hearing about all these other issues they have talking about attacking women. But as what are you bringing? What are you bringing? You're bringing your intelligence. Remove the fact, okay, all this is female, but you've got intelligence. You have somebody who has coming with experience, somebody who's coming with a wealth of knowledge. Just among the three of us sitting here, that's over 60-something years. There's probably more of knowledge that we bring in from an educational standpoint. And so that's key right there. One, being able to say what's on your mind truthfully, without being concerned about what people are thinking, but also understand that, having that, just like you say, having that heart for the community. That 2 points that you made that was so excellent was that, one, a lot of people don't care because, one, they don't live in the community anymore, but two, they've aged out. So let me explain to you about this age out thing. Well, guess what? I got my education. My children grown, they got an education. I don't care about these roughnecks out here in the streets, but you should care, because inside of your $300,000-$400,000 house, they peeping like this. Okay, wait a minute. What you got for me? What you got for me inside this house? What you got for me? You got something for me? So care about the next generation, because you don't want them going down a path that's going to lead to utter destruction. Lift them up and guide them. And that's the issue right there that you made that was so key, is that once you leave the community, you forget about the community. That's the problem.
Miss Thomas, y'all didn't hear from me. Y'all didn't hear this from me. Y'all did not hear this from me. I did not say this.
Get close. Let me get close.
I did not hear it. Y'all didn't hear it from me. I believe it's when Rick Scott was running for governor. He ran against a lady by the name of Alex Sink. I think that was her name.
Yeah.
Alex Sink. Do you not know that somewhere between 80% of the African-American Baptist black pastors and some of the Caucasian white pastors did not vote for her only because she was female?
That happened in the 2020 election.
And the same thing with what's her name that ran for the presidency?
Hillary Clinton.
Yeah.
Hillary Clinton.
Hillary. Yeah.
All because of her being a female. They felt that a woman could not be in charge of the state or the country. Look what were the results of our thinking. Plain and simple. Sometimes we got to get ourselves out of the way.
Yes.
And that's what we have. And I'm talking from Baptist. I ain't even talking from Christian. I ain't even talking from Christian level. I'm talking from a Baptist level. I love my look. I was born Baptist. I am Baptist, and when I die, I'm going Baptist. So that's true. I was born Baptist. I live Baptist, I feed Baptist, I preach Baptist, and when I die, I'm dying Baptist. I get it. I understand it. I understand that's a religion, but that's not the character that Jesus taught in the Bible. And we want to talk about the love of God. We point, Mike Todd, Pastor Mike Todd out of Birmingham, Alabama, used this illustration. I don't know if he did it yesterday or when he did it, but he used this illustration. We've been pointing towards Jesus because Jesus said, I am the door. He said, we get them to the door and folks want to stay at the door. You got to get behind the door because there's something behind the door. So all we doing is shouting at the door, not realizing behind the door is what we need to get. So in reality is, as a Baptist pastor, we just want enough. But we don't want to get behind that door because look, that Hillary Clinton could have been doing a whole lot great work for our country. I know y'all had y'all problem with all this Benghazi, Benghazi, whatever they want to say. But no matter what, she knew the ins and out of being a leader in that position. Her husband served well. She had done served in the Congress. She knew it. But we rather go and get a guy they said is a billionaire, but don't have no money to show that he's a billionaire.
That part. He conned us. Correction. He conned them all.
He conned them
all. He had a good talk game. Now, one thing he had was a good talk game. Great, phenomenal.
And that's what we chose. Just like we chose Rick Scott. I mean, I kept scratching my head. Hey, do y'all see that dude? And this who y'all gonna pick because he running against a woman? So
that's the same thing with their governor in Texas right now. I mean, I can't. When I tell you, I'm like y'all, your power grid went out again, and y'all sitting in the freezing cold. But you got the same, you wrote the same guy back in. But I digress. But anyway, listen, this must have, you got to come back. We will let you know about these other topics that we have next week.
He's been vetted. We're going to send you the schedule. You're vetted. You can no longer say I might be. Look, we need you in position. Get the grand chair fed early. You have been vetted. You are our male, all the balance that we need.
So what we're gonna do is this. We're gonna wrap up. We so thank you for coming on. I'm telling you, your voice was just valuable. He brought it for us a wealth of information as well. So we're gonna wrap up our session on the neutered radical. But what we do have, the final thing that we do every evening is that, or when we do have for our panel, we just ask for final thoughts. Just throw out your final thoughts on just anything that we talked about this evening, and then of course any word of advice and hope and uplifting for us going forward. All right, we're going to start with you, Pastor Buster. Go ahead.
Again, thank you. I am humbled that you all thought of me to ask me to come on tonight. As I said earlier, I watch most of y'all broadcasts. I'm always chiming in, just listening. Never really. I don't go in the comment section. I might look at it to see who talking, but I really don't put nothing down because I don't want nobody, bringing that smoke because they just don't know who I am. I am pastor, but Lord Jesus, before I became pastor, there was another Paul. There was a Paul. There was a Paul before there was a pastor. Don't get that guy. But I thank y'all for letting me come on and sharing my thoughts. And ladies, continue to press. There's a saying, continue to apply the pressure, because you're not, what you're doing now is very vital and important to our well-being, not just our young people well-being, to our entire society well-being. Folks need to know the truth. They need to know what's really going on, and sometimes it's not in the papers that we get. It's not in the news, ain't gonna report it all. So those that are going to speak truth to power, speak truth to power. So I encourage you all for doing what you're doing. I encourage you all, even being making the sacrifice that you all are making to be a very important role model to our young people in the classrooms. I applaud you. My hat is off to you. If I could pay you, I don't think I'd be able to pay you enough. for what you all are doing right now in this session, as well as what you all do outside in the classrooms, as well as in the community. God bless you. God keep you is my prayers.
Thank you so much, April.
I think we have covered it all. I don't think there's nothing more that could be said. Like, this right here is going to have me thinking throughout the night. I definitely will go back and be rewatching it, because again, like Pastor said, that, you know, the work that we're doing, you know, we pray all the time that it does not go in vain. And, you know, sometimes individuals don't want to hear what we have to say, but we do know this: we're doing it from the heart. And it's not always pretty. But one thing about it, we always have what's the best interest of children. And that even goes along with when we do not want to be abused by children, abused by their parents, because that's not what we're there for. We are human beings too, so we have to also protect ourselves. And I'm going to leave that at that. Great show, ladies.
Angela.
I mean, you know, I'm always thinking about words, right? Like words that somebody else has said that have spoken to me. And so I was thinking about, I think it was this person may not matter to anybody else, but she's been somebody that I've learned a lot from. Her name is Ursula Wolf Roca, and she was talking about one time that, like, it can be overwhelming to witness and experience, like, all of the injustices, like all of them, and they just come again and again and fast and fast. And she said, oddly, the good news is that they're all connected. So if your little corner of the work involves pulling at one of the threads, then you're helping to unravel the whole damn cloth, right? And so it's like, just keep working your corner, right? Like, you can't do it. Just keep working your corner, whatever it is. And so I think, like, that's what comes back to me when I, you know, because it's like, it becomes overwhelming. It becomes overwhelming. You're like, does it matter at all that I'm saying anything, that I'm doing anything? And then I have to come back to, it does. It does. Because when we all agree that it doesn't matter, then they win.
And my final thought would be, and thank you, Angela, thank you, April, and Pastor Buster. But I will say this: my final thought is because we are going to continue to push on, and we are going to continue to strive. Because in the in indelible words of James Baldwin, I can't trust what you say because I see what you do. So we're going to wrap up this evening. Thank you all so much for joining us. We are the Sunshine Education Coalition. And we hope that you enjoyed our panel discussion this evening on the Neutered Radical. And we will see you very soon. Please join us online at www.sunshineeducationcoalition.org, as well as Facebook and Twitter. Follow us on Twitter. Have a good evening, everyone. Bye.
And let's not forget, we'll be here on next week. We are scheduled to be at the school board.
Yes, we are.
On Tuesday. Correct, Angela? Yes, on Tuesday.
Yes.
So go ahead, Angela. You want to add something? So we're going there to once again express the current work that we're doing, our current concerns, and in solidarity to be able to identify that our children deserve equality in all of this, and we got to do something indifferent to make sure that our Black and brown children, with an emphasis on the Black boy, is not being suspended at a very exponential rate in comparison to their peers. So that's all we have tonight, guys. I want to make sure we don't forget that, Denise. And good night.